There are four individuals that I particularly want to thank very profoundly for their contribution. In all four cases, these are people who have been with us from the beginning, people who started soon after the founding of the magazine in 1994 and who are still with us, which is amazing. Not only still alive, but still doing their thing. And their thing is different in each case, as you will learn. So we have awards for these four individuals, and I would like to present these awards in alphabetical order, beginning with Charles Heffling. As I look at this thing, it's really kind of cool. It's actually that logo at the top, which you'll see there, it's in huge right there. That is, I guess that's sort of the least of Charles's creations as far as the artistry and brilliance of his work. And it's hard to find superlatives enough, really, to describe what he does. But he has produced most of the covers of the magazine for these many years. And for that, of course, we are amazingly grateful. So here's what it says. For your dazzling illustrations have enlivened the pages and covers of the magazine since the beginning, giving the G&LR its distinctive look, first with line drawings and later with full-color caricatures of the most illustrious LGBT people, past and present. So this is for Charles. Are you here?
I'm impressed. I told Richard that I did not want to give a speech. He said, "You have to, or I won't print any more drawings." And that did it, because, as any artist will tell you, if they're honest, artists are all exhibitionists. They want to be displayed. Real artists want to see what they do on a wall, preferably in a museum. An illustrator, which is not the same thing, wants to see it on a page. And over these many years, as Richard said, he has put me on a lot of pages, so to say. He hasn't always liked what he put there, and mostly he's been right. But I'm pretty sure there has been only one time when he said flat out, "No, we can't print that." So it's hard for me to imagine a more agreeable editor to work with, and I've worked with some. I'm grateful to have worked with Richard. I'm glad to be the first to salute and congratulate him on these 25 years. Thank you.
You are a genius. You are. That we would like to honor tonight cannot be with us, and that person is Andrew Holleran. And that's a name that you probably know because he is a very famous novelist whose book Dancer from the Dance came out in 1978 and who has written several novels since then. So I think he is a person who is fairly well known to you. And he's written for just about every single issue. And indeed, his initial article called My Harvard, which was a memoir about his days at Harvard in the 1960s, was really very important, shall we say, for the initial founding of the magazine, because when he allowed us to publish this piece, someone with his name and reputation, it really set the tone. Look, we are going to be a serious magazine, and we are going to get, important, famous people who will contribute to this magazine. And so that piece went into the very first issue, and he has, I think, missed maybe 2 issues since then, which is amazing. So anyway, let me just read you. I'll first read you what the inscription says on his plaque, and then he actually was kind enough to write a little response or a thank you, which I will then read. So here's what it says: to Andrew Holleran, etc., for contributing brilliantly to virtually every issue of the magazine, starting with the Harvard memoir in the very first, from the great gay writers of the past century to the important cultural moments of our time. You have contributed immensely to our collective LGBT knowledge base. So that's... And here's what Andrew wrote. By the way, Andrew, do you know Andrew Holleran is not his real name? It's actually Eric Garber. It's a totally open secret. But of course, he's known to all of us by his authorial name. Thank you so much for the keys to this magnificent new Mercedes-Benz. We had to have a joke somewhere. I knew there'd be a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow, but never dreamt it would be a brand new sports car. It is hard to believe that 25 years have gone by. We've all seen many of our favorite mainstream magazines shrink, if not disappear, which makes me all the more grateful for the GLR. A writer has one basic dream: to see his or her words in print. I try to clip all my articles when I go into the closet to find an old one. I notice the clear demarcation between the old paper and ink of yesteryear and how much better the present version is, the glossy paper, the wonderful color, and the caricatures of Charles Heffling. In fact, to my eye, the entire magazine has never looked better. So I'm very grateful to have an opportunity to write about books that appear like desserts in a bakery case on a little list that Richard and Martha put together every 2 months and send out to us reviewers. And I'm always thrilled when someone mentions a piece I've written, because one forgets that one does reach people we may never hear from, but who are out there in the dark. Quite literally, being published in the GLR has been a reward in itself. I blush. It's kept this writer going in the horror vacui of the digital age. So thanks to everyone, from board members to Richard to proofreaders, for all the work that goes into making this magazine a little present I and many other people look forward to every 2 months. Long live the GLR. Next, I have an award for Michael Schwartz, who has, I think they focus very much, because Michael has been a copy editor and an associate editor for many, many years, and has probably been, more than anyone, responsible for saving us from embarrassments of the kind that happen when, errors creep into a magazine. But he's also been a contributor right from the very, very beginning. He's been a wonderful writer who's reviewed many, many books over the years. And so for that as well, we're grateful. But the thing that I'm about to read you focuses mostly on the copy editing. So to Michael Schwartz, for 25 years of tireless service in the cause of making the G&LR a more perfect magazine, for saving us from countless embarrassments, and for wise commentary on the articles to be published, your work has greatly enhanced the quality of the magazine. Michael?
I have to say, as I've been sitting there listening to people, I've been distracted by this back. I've been distracted by this back here, and I'm woefully underdressed for it. And so just imagine sequins, and it might help.
It's hard to dress for that.
It really is, yeah. I started with the review in the second issue. I went back and checked that. I wrote a review of an anthology of the Violet Quill writers. And it was great. I got to state my opinion, and people had to listen to it. I really liked that aspect of being a reviewer. And in the time since then, I've written 1 or 2 pieces a year. I agonize over these pieces. I want every sentence I just work at, and Richard is terribly patient with the fact that by the time I'm finished, nobody cares about these books anymore, but I feel as though I've delivered something. There was one point I was working on a piece on James Purdy, and Richard said, Charles has a great illustration of James Purdy. You have to finish the review so we can put it into the issue. So I hurried up and got that done. But as I said, I feel as though my main contribution is through the proofreading and the copy editing, and that started after an early issue. There was an interview with. Okay, sorry. Oh, that does make a difference, doesn't it? Yes. Proofreading, yes. Okay. Very early issue, there was an interview with Dorothy Allison, who wrote a much acclaimed work called A Bastard Out of Carolina, for which she received much acclaim and the Farrow Grumley Award, named after Robert Farrow and Michael Grumley, two writers who were part of the Violet Quill. And this award was established in their name. But in the interview, when Dorothy Allison explained that she got the Farrow Grumley Award, F-E-R-R-O, because of the North Carolina accent, the interviewer, who obviously was not from North Carolina, said that it was the Farrah Grumley Award, as in Farrah Fawcett. And I went to Richard and said, we can't let this happen again. So since that time, I have tried to catch those errors, as Richard says. I'll go in and say, I'm not sure that this book title is correct. And he says, oh, Martha will catch that. So Martha is very important in her librarian approach to checking these things. And it also lets me, in my crusade to get rid of unnecessary commas. People insist on starting sentences. They'll say, we shouldn't want anything more than that. New paragraph, and yet, comma, we do. There is no such thing as the dramatic pause, comma. There is no justification for that. So when I see one of those, I circle it and said no. And I go, and he said, I do my rant, and then Richard says yes, and he leaves it in. But I have done what I can for comma purity. So I will continue to fight that fight, and eventually, I will give in. To come here tonight, I went and looked over several of the pieces I've written, and I'm surprised at how good they are. I mean, and I want to say that because Richard has created a readership that is intelligent, that's well informed, that's curious, and that really wants writers to do their best. And in this environment, you can be your best as a writer. And the cavalcade of important people who have appeared on these pages is astonishing. Edmund White, Camille Paglia, important, who knows. But Andrew Holleran, week after week, Tony Kushner. There's just people who want to be heard come to Richard. When Martin Duberman published a book on New York City Ballet, and found more material after the book was published, he wanted to get into print. He came to Richard and said, your audience will be interested in this. Please print this stuff. That's the status that this review has. And as we said, a niche publication that's actually on paper. This is the fact that you get a paper copy every month and you can hold the paper copy in your hand. It's not just digital. That is I think, an accomplishment. And I thank Richard for the opportunity of letting me write for him, and I hope that someday he'll understand about dramatic pause, commas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That comment, I think that's our only disagreement, is that comment, because the dramatic pause, come on, it's a gay thing. But I also should mention, and because Michael talked about the fact that he maybe agonizes quite a lot about his prose, and I really appreciate that. Believe me, that's every editor's dream, somebody who agonizes before they turn something in, as opposed to, yeah, here, you fix it up. And I could say that about Michael and also Andrew Holleran, both extremely meticulous writers, and that is something that we appreciate. Anyway, someone else who is a wonderful writer is Martha Stone. And I want to honor her as well. She wears quite a few different hats with the magazine. One of them is writer. She has been in, I think, every single issue since sometime in 1994. as a writer, but she also is our literary editor, so she is very much instrumental in the selection of books, more than anyone, much more than me, as a matter of fact. Martha is the one who selects the books that we review in the magazine, and that's like a very important function, I think. And she is also a copy editor, and she's kind of our fact checker, which is really important, so that anything that has kind of capital letters, like proper nouns, she checks on those to make sure that we get titles and authors and names and dates right. So her work has been just enormously appreciated, indispensable. How do you thank Martha Stone? Well, you give her a plaque, I guess. So here we go. To Martha Stone for 25 years of relentless dedication to the G&LR and its mission as a sparkling writer and relentless copy editor, board member, and constant booster. As literary editor, you have helped to shape the literary landscape for a generation of LGBT readers. So, thank you, Martha. Want me to hold it while you read?
Thank you, and thank you, Richard. This is very, very, very exciting. And when Richard told me I'd be getting the award, I said, "Oh, can I make an acceptance speech?" And he said, "Oh yeah, you can do that." So I have these prepared remarks, but then everyone who came ahead of me had all these wonderful things to say, and I thought I would like to just elaborate on that a little bit. I found the Harvard Gay and Lesbian Review in the magazine rack at the old Glad Day on Boylston Street just after Thanksgiving of '93. And on the cover was, as Richard mentioned, Andrew Holleran's My Harvard, and there was Reed Woodhouse's The 5 Houses of Gay Fiction. I thought, oh my God, I've got so much catching up to do. This is incredible. Little did I ever imagine that, a few years down the road, I'd be sitting at Richard's house I remember very well, having pizza with Reed Woodhouse, that I would be at parties with Andrew Holleran, that I'd be at parties with Ed White. It's very exciting. And I remember the issue with, as was mentioned, Dorothy Allison on the cover. And I was at a party and I said to Richard, oh my goodness, there's Dorothy Allison. How am I going to be able to say hello to her? He said, well, just, take a copy of the magazine with you and ask her to sign it. And it worked. And she was just a lovely, lovely person. So, I've had, all this incredible fun with the magazine. So volume 1, number 1, had a little, display ad or notice in it that said, we're looking for reviewers, and you don't have to be an alum of Harvard to review. So, I'd published a couple of book reviews in some very, very small newsletters, and I really wanted to, get my name out there and get myself published and, see my name. So I thought, I can do this. So my first published review, and the review was not a book review, actually. There was a local performance artist named Craig Hickman, and he was doing a performance piece at the old ICA, also by chance on Boylston Street. So I went to see it, and I thought it was really neat, and I reviewed it, and Richard published it. And so that was in volume 1, number 2. And then by volume 1, number 4 was my first book review. And then Richard started to put my name on the masthead as a contributing editor, which was extremely exciting. And then in fairly short order, I became the co-literary editor with Alastair Williamson, who many of you know. But then he moved back home to Canada after a few years, and Lewis Gannett was my other co-literary editor, and that went for a few years. And then finally, I was the sole literary editor, and everything that I do for the review is just so much fun, and as was stated, a labor of love. And I get great satisfaction from it. And in addition to thanking Richard so much for taking a chance on me when he didn't know me and nurturing my writing, and opening all kinds of incredible doors to me. I also want to thank all my wonderful friends and all the subscribers for for listening to me burble on about the magazine ceaselessly, and I really do hope this all continues for many more years. So thank you very much.
All right, that's it for me. I would like to turn the mic over to Stuart Clifford, who has a few more words and possibly an announcement to make. So once again, thank you so much for coming. Wonderful to see you all. Be sure that you subscribe to the magazine and give it as a gift. Be sure to give gift subscriptions. It's our future.
25 years, amazing contributions, amazing people. But the Review is an organization that not only has to rely on our subscribers, but on donors. And we have an amazing group of donors who've contributed to the Review to help us do exciting things. For example, just this year, we're working on sending out complimentary issues to gay and lesbian LGBTQ student organizations across the nation, 500 of them, to engage more young people in this pursuit and to let them see what an amazing publication it is. We're working on improving our website. We are developing our working on a brilliant idea by Art Cohen to add regular contributions to the website so that people will visit us online all the time to see what's going on in the LGBT world. So I want to thank people who've contributed. I want to make an announcement. Our board has generously contributed $6,000, which is a matching amount of money for anyone who wants to contribute. So your gift at this event, you'll notice that there are donor cards in your programs. There are also some extra ones on the table. Your gift will be doubled, and we will continue to double gifts for the remainder of our 25th anniversary. So I want to make sure that if you get a chance, please give to the Review. Please help us in our mission. You know, the challenges for a niche magazine, as Richard has explained, are really complicated in this world where digital publications are taking over, where magazines are disappearing. And our contributions help us to try and overcome those challenges and to keep the Review published and relevant and of interest to people of all ages, LGBT people of all ages, and to continue to tell the stories of our community as we move forward. So if you get a chance, please fill out, make a contribution. Your gift will be doubled. We have over $6,000 raised from the board, which will go towards this. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming, for subscribing, for their amazing contributions to the Review. This is a labor of love. It's a publication that has made a difference and will continue to make a difference. And I think as people, even decades from now, will look back and say how important it is. So thank you all. Richard, thank you.